So when we put our plants out into the garden, we're really asking nature to take over. And that happens generally quite well with success, as long as we're involved in good preparation and good practice. You want to have really healthy soil, but no matter how healthy your soil is, you cannot necessarily prevent things like slugs and snails from attacking your plants. I went out last night and in about 15 minutes, I collected what must be close to about 40 to 50 slugs off my plants. How do you know if your plants are being attacked by slugs? Well, these holes here are the telltale signs. Leaves with holes like cheese in them, or actually leaves that are pretty much shredded. The thing is that we all get really upset about slugs and snails, and that's understandable. But they are part of the ecosystem and the environment that we're planting into. So it's really good to be prepared for some of the losses and to accept some of them. You can still eat leaves that have got holes in them after all. So we're not looking to eradicate all the slugs from our garden because they feed birds. Birds are pollinators, and they're an important part of our garden too. Anyway, eradication's not really on the cards. It's not practicable, and nobody's achieved it so far. So it's really more about control. And there are some nice ways of controlling the numbers of slugs in your garden. A lot of people do use slug pellets. I try to avoid that because I try not to bring too many chemicals into the garden. But if you are going to use slug pellets, this is a really good idea. Get a plastic takeaway dish and turn it over and cut a hole in it. You just put some blue tack in the middle here, stick your slug pellets onto it, put that in the garden. Now there's two things about that. One is that when it rains, it won't wash the slug pellets into the soil. Two, birds aren't going to come along and eat those slug pellets. And I've seen birds eat plenty of slug pellets in my time. There are other ways of doing it though. You can make a slug pub. You get a bottle of beer and you put some liquid into a container that's deep enough for slugs to fall into but not get out of. Now, beer works, wine works, honey solution, a sugar solution, so that's just honey or sugar in water. Something to entice the slugs in and then they fall in and they drown. There are barrier methods. Quite a few people use coffee grounds to try and keep slugs off their plants, and apparently the caffeine in coffee is toxic to slugs. I have to say though, I haven't seen this work, because what can happen is you can get a crust over the top and the slugs seem to scoot over it, but it's well worth the go. Another option is to create a barrier of crushed eggshells. That's on the basis that eggshells are sharp and they're gritty, they're uncomfortable, and they stick to the slugs as they go over them. The other way around is you try and entice your slugs into areas where you can then pick them up and control them. So a half grapefruit or a half orange is a good idea if it's been eaten and hollowed out. You put this upside down on the soil. Now the whole point of this is that slugs and snails like it quite damp, so at the end of a night's troughing on your spinach, they'll crawl under here and avoid the sunshine. Then you can go out into the garden during the day, pick these up, and you should find some slugs or snails hiding underneath them, so you can do with them what you will. Cabbage leaves are another good option. Lay them down on the ground like this, and slugs will go underneath there, start eating them. You can pick them up and you can kill them. But really, the number one most effective way of controlling slugs in your garden is to put on a head torch and get a pair of tweezers and go out into your garden after dark. Now, it's not something that you really want to be doing when there's a movie coming on, but as I found last night, once you get out there and see how many slugs are on your fennel or on your spinach or your broccoli, and you start collecting them, something takes over, and before you know it, you've been out there for half an hour, you've got a jar full of slugs. But again, remember that slugs are a part of the garden. They'll always keep coming back. So once a week, once a fortnight, out there with your torch and tweezers, you'll probably make a big difference. And just to prove that these control methods really do work, this is a grapefruit skin that I put out after my main slug collection last night. And yep, there we go, we got one. He's not going to be around anymore. And over here is the slug pub. I think we've got a few in there too.